Welcome to Riding Mower King. Today in this video we're going to be getting this John Deere X300 ready to go back to a customer. There's 4 areas we're really going to concentrate on. One is going to be the drive pulley on the transmission back here. Then we're going to look at the belts. And we're going to change the blades. We're going to resharpen the spare blades and put those on. And then we're going to look at the reverse switch, or the switch that turns off the deck when you go into reverse for the reverse mowing. Because on this one, you step on the brake and it turns off the deck. So I believe that's going to be an adjustment on the switch on the side of the transmission, where I think what happens is you step on the brake, it puts the transmission in neutral, and it thinks that you're going in reverse, because I think something's a little out of adjustment. So we're going to look at that. So first we're going to put this pulley on here. So this here's the new pulley, and these pulleys are splined in here, and that slides down on the shaft, and that's what, you know, connects it to the transmission so that it makes the shaft spin. These don't have a keyway, they have these splines that wear out. So we're going to take this piece out here first, and these should be 8 millimeters. So it's only 2 screws for this. This just gives you a little more room to get your hands in there. It really helps if you have snap ring pliers that are angled like this on a 90, so you can go straight down on top of the snap ring. Otherwise, you know, you would have to lower the transmission down so you can get to this. Now, it feels like the snap ring's facing me. And you also want to put the parking brake on, because that's going to give you a little bit of slack in the belt here. So I should be able to just take off that snap ring, slide this pulley off, and put the new one in the belt and slide it back on. That's the plan. But first we got to get these pliers into the snap ring without being able to see what you're doing. And you want to keep your fingers on the snap ring, because if that pops off, it'll disappear. So now I can see that this part here is facing up on that pulley, so we're going to put it on the same way. So we slide this one out, and we hold on to the belt so it doesn't fall off any of the other pulleys. And then we slide this one in, keeping the belt tight. And now we line it up, slide it back on. So there, now we got our pulley replaced. It does still have a little bit of play, but they said that it was time for a new pulley. So we got a new pulley on here. Now we just put the snap ring back on. And this part is essentially done. So then we'll get underneath it and we'll look at the belts. Well, it popped off just like that. I wasn't even squeezing it yet. So you got to be really careful with these snap rings. So now we get it lined up. If we can figure out where lined up is. I have to get a flashlight so I can see in there to make sure that it's engaged. Well, it sure feels like it is. All right, so maybe you can see that the snap ring is engaged. And I already pulled up on the pulley, so it's not going anywhere. So now this pulley has definitely less play than the other one. It's not perfect, there's not zero play, but that's the way it's made, kind of. And while you're back here looking at this, now's a good time to make sure that you have all these fins on here, because these fins have to be here. This fan helps to cool that hydrostatic transmission, and if you're mowing and you get a stick up in here, you know, it'll break these off and you won't even know it till eventually your transmission starts to get hot and starts to fail. So you always want to look and make sure, especially on one like this that's easy to see. This is when you want to inspect your blade, your fan. Okay, so I got my blades sharpened up, the spare blades. And on this one, these nuts are 18 millimeter. So you have your nut, which is actually a locking nut. And you have your nice thick washer, and this is I'm used to these being called a Bellevue washer. It's kind of concave, so it's a little bit of a spring washer. When you tighten this down, it flattens out the washer. The washer is kind of beveled. Now up here, there's splines up here, and there's splines on your blade, so you have to make sure that those line up. We'll clean that some more later after we get the work done. So obviously you want the sharpened blade, the sharpened edge towards the ground. You want the little wing facing up, and you want to make sure to actually fit on there. And the washer goes on with the kind of the cone shape facing down towards the nut, so that when the nut tightens, it pushes up on the center of the washer to give it that kind of a extra tension. It loads up the washer. So make sure the blade's engaged and set it to the right torque. And now we go do the other side. So you can hear there's plastic in here. This is part of the mulch plug. John Deere really goes all out on making this a mulching deck, where they have this whole plastic guide in here to help throw the grass back into the blades. So it's more than just putting a cover on the edge to keep the grass in there. They actually designed this with this extra guide here to help chop the grass up more. Now we're going to put all three pieces up here all at one time. Just so we have the nuts started. And we have to go up to where we can feel that engage. And we'll turn it on by hand a little bit. Then we'll get the tool here and tighten it up. Remember, check your specs, torque that to the right torque spec. So now the blades are done. Now we can look at the belts a little bit. So from what I can see on this deck belt, if it would get in focus, that the belt, where I can feel it, it feels pretty good. It looks pretty good. It has good tension on it yet, because it has a special tensioner there because it has an electric PTO. So the belt, you know, it's not new, but it seems to be in pretty good shape. So now let's see if we can look at the drive belt. Maybe. So much apparatus under this tractor that you really can't see in from the side on this. So now we're going to grease the front axle, and like I said in other videos, I like to do it with it up in the air so that the grease can actually get to the bottom here while the tractor doesn't have its weight on there. Now on these John Deeres, on this model, the grease fitting is on the back side of the axle. So we'll put a few pumps. I saw it start to move down there. And then we'll put some in this side here. And there is also a fitting in the center of the axle, right down here. The pivot point in the center of the axle has a grease fitting on these. And sometimes the spindles have grease fittings. So let's see if we can find a grease fitting on this spindle for the deck. I did not see any grease fittings underneath while I was doing the blades. And I don't see any on this spindle here. And I don't see any on the other spindle, so they just may not be greasable down here. So we'll work the steering a little bit here. Get that grease moved around in there. Don't see any grease fittings on the wheels either. Alright, so we got this just about finished. All I have to do yet really is change the oil in the filter in the engine. And you know, don't need that to be part of the video. So I put the pulley on the transmission. We looked at the belts. I changed the blades. And the other thing I said about was the switch for the reverse. And I did find it. It's really buried along the frame. And it doesn't look like there's really anything wrong with the adjustment. It's just a matter of the way this is set up to mow in reverse. Now, I did see a couple videos, and some of them have a button over here for reverse mowing. This one here has this set up here, and it's a little bit wore away, but it does say RIO with a reverse, you know, with an arrow pointed backwards. So luckily this one's in such good condition that you can still read the label. So here it tells you how to mow in reverse. You actually hold that PTO button up to a second position, and then you push the pedal to go in reverse. Now the only thing is you have to do that each time you want to back up. So it's not like some tractors where you set it to mow in reverse and you can mow the whole time until you turn the key off or until you turn the deck off and start over. So this one you just have to pull this handle up to a second position every time you want to back up. So there's really nothing wrong with the setting on that switch or anything. If you step on the brake pedal, it does turn off the deck, and that's okay, I guess, because they figure if you're putting the brake on, you're going to get out of the seat. Because in normal operation, you don't have to use the brake. You just let off whichever pedal you're pushing, and the tractor will come to a stop, and you can push the pedal to go the other direction. So normal mowing, you normally wouldn't really need the brake, unless it's kind of a panic situation a little bit, and in which case the deck turning off isn't really your concern at that point. So this is pretty much ready to go to the customer. This is actually going to a new owner when I get done with it here. And I think they're going to be pretty happy with the operation. I just mowed with it a little bit. That's why you see some fresh grass up there. So, yeah, this is going to go out to a new home. And I think everybody's going to be happy with it. So we'll catch you in the next video.